Well, we're still on this issue of the geopolitics and the war in Iran and the spillover effects it's having in Nigeria. We're not going to look at it from the perspective of commodities mostly with Mr. Bismarck Rewane. Mr. Rewane is the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company. Mr. Rewane, good morning. Well, I've seen
good
you,
morning,
as usual, you've been in a lot of places talking about what this is doing, what it could do. And I think you put the impact at about 15% when it comes to price of commodities and all?
Yes. I think first of all, let's start by analyzing what the global and total impact is. The analysts and the experts have said that the total impact of this crisis so far, that is 3 weeks and running, is more than the impact on the global economy of 1973 crisis, which is the Yom Kippur War, more in addition to the Iraq-Iran war in 1980, in addition to the first Gulf War, the second Gulf War. So when you put all of these things together, the impact so far, and this is only 3 weeks running into the 4th week, has had a more debilitating effect on the global economy than all of those put together. Therefore, this is not just a passing threat. This is a clear and present danger to the global economy, 1. 2, yesterday alone, we saw the volatility in the markets. That is, you said it just now, the price of oil Brent went as low as 98 and went as high as 114. Today it's about 102. Nobody knows what to believe, nobody knows what to expect, nobody knows what to forecast, and nobody knows what to predict. But the reality is there. What we do know is that there are winners and losers of this. And they talk about the strategic reserves, and we're now having talks in Pakistan. Yeah, it's expected that Mr. Vance and the other leaders in the US are going to be meeting, Jared Kushner and Witkoff are going to be meeting with the Iranian team, but the Iranians have described it as false hopes and fake news. Now, when it comes to crude oil, the guys who are not affected by the closure or disruption in the Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz is the canal through which 20% of global oil and other commodities go through. So what it has meant, the winners today are Russia, who have actually had the price. Russia is making $160 million a day more than what they were doing before now. Canada is far away, so they can transfer their crude to all the markets without going through the Strait of Hormuz, through the Suez Canal, through the Gibraltar Canal, but can go through the Cape of Good Hope. So Canada gains. Norway clearly gains, because that's where the North Sea oil comes from. Nigeria gains significantly, and I want to break that down. Nigeria gains, the federal government of Nigeria gains because it is the major producer of oil, and then the other participants. So it increases the fiscal revenue of the federal government of Nigeria on one hand. Secondly, there are losers in Nigeria. That is, the ordinary man is paying more for petrol. You know, the price of petrol, price of aviation fuel, price of kerosene and all that, and cooking gas have all gone up. So when it comes to gas production, major gainers
go on
here.
To gas. Mr. Rewane,
yes, gas.
Mr. Rewane, before you go on to gas, I just want us, of course, we'll be really interested in your findings on Nigeria's revenue that is supposed to surge by 15% to 22 trillion naira by the year end. That is if this is sustained. And of course, you also talked about the losers in the Nigerian case. Consumers are already losing, paying more at the pump and everything. When you weigh, the losing and the gains, which way does the way go? Does it go to the losers or the winners?
No, I think the gainers are for Nigeria as a country, right? The Nigerian government gains more than the aggregate losses of the individuals. But the individuals, the consumers, and all of us put together are the ones who are more in number, but less in value. The value of the gains goes to the government. So what the goal now is that the government recycles their gains and makes it impactful and uses it to support the common man. And that was the discussion you were having just now with Mr. Idoko.
Yeah, let me get your view on that. What are the possible ways that the government can, in a short term, I mean, because we don't pray that this will last for a long time, in a short term, that government can spread this gain from the macro side to the micro side?
Well, I think there are multiple channels to doing that. You know, you have all sorts of channels that are, you know, unconditional cash transfers and all, but I don't support that. The way to do it is to efficiently deploy this money, right, in terms of support through education, power, and all the other areas. So that's an implementation problem. But I think that first and foremost, if the government can be more efficient, if the government can block leakages and stop, fight corruption, those are ways in which the government spending can be much more effective and impactful. But short term, as far as we know, for the next 2-3 months, Nigeria's government revenues will increase, while people's income, that is the ordinary people's income, will decline. And how to bridge it will be a major goal for the federal government of Nigeria and the state governments as well, right? But coming back to gas, as I was saying before, in terms of gas production, you'll find that Nigeria, Mozambique, and to a large extent Canada as well, gain substantially because they can move gas clearly without going through the pipelines, and Russia also gains on that in that aspect. The next product there is fertilizers. Fertilizer, Nigerian, Dangote, and Ethiopia put together are probably the largest, going to be the largest fertilizer producers in the world. So there are massive gains there. The urea prices are up by 46%. And so, but the beauty is that if you increase your fertilizer production, which we have done, and fertilizer price, we should be seeing an increased output in agriculture, but we are not seeing this at this point. The losers here are India and Brazil. The gainers are Russia, Canada, and Nigeria. So what are we seeing so far? We've seen in the last few days an increase in prices of commodities. We've seen the petrol price increase, kerosene price increase, cooking gas increase, but also we are beginning to see increase in yellow garri is up to 18,000 naira per 50 kg. That's up from 18 to 19,000, up 5%. We've seen an increase in the beans, price of beans. This happened significantly immediately after the fasting. And it's gone up and it's likely to go higher. Cement has stayed flat at 11,500 per bag. Tomatoes up by 10% to 55,000. It was 50,000 before this crisis started. And pepper remained flat. Atarodo is still at 80,000 per bag. And we've seen vegetable oil and onions stay flat. What we are seeing and what we expect to see is that every 1% increase in the price of petrol increases inflation by 0.079. Therefore, what we expect naturally, if you just do it arithmetically, is that the rate of inflation now, which is 15%, could go as high as 19%, right? And also the naira begins to stabilize because obviously the Nigerian government gets more dollars from exports, but also it has to use that to support the naira so that we can reduce imported inflation. But that's what the reality is. And the other thing is that for Nigeria, the Nigerian government, we had actually pre-sold some of our oil due to some contracts that we had. So for those contracts, for those pre-sold oil, an increase in price does not affect us positively. But not all the oil was pre-sold. We have other sales which are outside of the pre-sold contracts. So we should see our revenue increase quite sharply in the next 2 to 3 months. And that has to be redeployed to support the people who are actually suffering and smiling.
Yeah, smiling. Mr. Rewane, we do hope that we will see that redeployment. And as you noted earlier, the blocking of leakages is also another thing. So while the government has increased revenue, those leakages will not, sap off those gains, and at least they'll find a way to get to the people.
And the good news is that You saw Dangote speaking with the president. If the price of oil comes down sharply, and we expect this to happen in the next few days, maybe, then we will see a reduction in the price of petrol. So even though you're seeing petrol today at 1,350, which is quite biting, it's a cutthroat, we think that you will see a sharp reduction in the price of petrol because there's the Nigerian competitor body which looks at prices. And Dangote has shown last year he brought down prices 8 times. And this year, in the next couple of days, if the price stays low, we should see that reduction in prices, and that will give some succor for now. So what has become clear to every Nigerian is that our economy is more integrated with the global economy, that the things that are outside our control are beyond the things that are within our control. And one thing is clear is that you would have refined products, the quality is constant, but the price changes, and the price is tied to other prices around the world. And today, Dangote Refinery has been approached by the South Africans and many African countries trying to buy processed refined products from us. And that is good because Nigeria gets more value from exporting refined products than exporting crude. Airline jet fuel has increased, and you see fares are increasing across the world, Qantas Airline and others. So it is not a Nigeria-specific problem. It is not. It is a global problem. And like I said at the beginning, the impact of this crisis, or not crisis, this conflict, crisis was before the conflict. The impact of this conflict on the global economy is more than all the 4 wars we've had in the past 60 years together. And it's only 3 weeks. Who knows what's going to happen if it lasts for another 3 weeks?
Well, we hope it doesn't, because we can't imagine the impact. But thank you so much, Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, for your time and thoughts this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Let's take a break now. When we come back, more interesting conversations waiting for you on the other side of Business Morning. Please stay with us.